Hey, welcome to Clarksville Vibe the show where we tell the stories of the people who make Clarksville the best place to live in America. Hey, I'm Kevin Kennedy, your host, local pediatric dentist here in town, Clarksville native, just telling Clarksville's story and all the positive things that are happening here and introducing you to people who are making things happen and adding value to our community in a lot of ways. Hey, if you are liking our content, we would really appreciate it if you engage with us in some way. Hit like, hit subscribe on YouTube, hit subscribe on the podcast platform that you're consuming this on. Any type of interaction really helps us. Leave us a review, tell a friend somehow. If you're finding value from this, we want to grow our online community and really be able to reach more people so we can tell them about how awesome Clarksville is. I think this episode is going to be one that also just adds a tremendous amount of value. You're going to hear a lot of great stories. You're going to hear a lot of great things that are happening, moving in the future of Clarksville, and then hear a lot about a community that's budding and growing and is just exciting to be a part of. We've got a really fantastic guest for you today. She kind of described herself as dynamite, and I think that is a perfect explanation for what she is bringing to our community. She is the queen of the arts community. She would not call herself that, but I will call her that. She is involved in just about everything that you can think of that has an artistic element to our downtown, to just the community as a whole. She is Maria Haycraft. We are so glad to have you today. Thanks for jumping on and being a part of the show with us.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So, we've talked to lots of different types of people. We've talked to Clarksville native. We've talked to Clarksville newcomers. And you're kind of in that middle zone, right? You've been around here a while. Mm-hmm. And I want to hear a little bit about how did the arts become something that was important to you? And when did you first, kind of tag on to this? And this is something that I love and enjoy. And why is it important to you that you've now taken that love and passion and brought it to Clarksville with you?
Okay, so my initial intro into the arts was more like in the music industry.
Okay.
I was a music kid in high school, so I did everything music. I feel like, to be honest with you, if I didn't have music in high school, I would have never made it through high school.
That's fair.
So I did every possible music class, and that led me into the kind of an underground music scene. We started making a lot of friends with bands, and I would have the bands come and play different coffee shops and clubs in my hometown.
Okay.
And I'm doing this in high school.
And where's this hometown?
Hometown in Niagara Falls, New York.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so here I am 16 years old and doing stuff like that.
Organizing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just making friends in the music industry, and I just fell in love with that. And I started touring with bands right out of high school. I went on the Warped Tour, and I lived that life for so long, and I thought forever I was going to be on the road doing band stuff. That was my creative outlet. Until I hit a super low patch, and I found myself stuck and lost in Gainesville, Florida. And Gainesville, Florida has the coolest graffiti wall that's totally legal. Anyone can go up there and paint it. And my friends that I had at the time knew my struggle. They knew what was going on. They're like, come out with us, come stencil this wall. And I was like, what is stenciling?
I don't know what that means.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. So I go out to this wall. They teach me how to stencil. And little do I know, I absolutely love this. I find myself at that wall hours and hours and hours. And it just was a really great way to just process what was going on and filter all of the hurt and the pain and the frustration I was going through. And I didn't really realize at the time how therapeutic it was. It was just kind of going through the motions. So I moved back home to Niagara Falls, found myself with those same friends that we did stuff with. And they're like, well, what are we going to do now? I was like, well, I started this stenciling thing. Yeah. I don't know.
Let me tell you about it.
Yeah. So we were like, well, maybe we could stencil T-shirts. And it turned into a clothing brand.
Okay.
We called it Sock Hair and Saviv. My faith has a whole lot of an aspect in every area of my life, and they're Christians as well. So we were like, we wanted a name that represented that. So we pulled out the Latin dictionary because we just had one with us randomly, and the word sock hair popped up, and it meant sacred in Latin. So we thought that was a really good way of representing it without being in your face. So sock hair clothing started. And that was my very first intro really into the creative arts, doing art versus the music industry. So I'm making these shirts, and now I'm clothing bands. And so I'm still doing the music industry from a back.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. maybe 3 months into that, all of us were like, we hate Niagara Falls. We need to leave. So we're like, let's go back to Florida where we were living. And that was like the worst place for me. But I was like, it's better than Niagara Falls.
So why not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But at that point in my life, I was really rededicating myself to the Lord. And I was really praying through like, God, what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? And it was really crazy because I felt like God was calling me to Nashville. And I was like, what's in Nashville? And this is in like 2002, right? Like Nashville.
So like pre-Nashville boom.
Yes, exactly. So I was like, I knew nobody there. And I was like, okay. So
it's
now
very similar, the honky tonks of Nashville in 2002 to what I would assume would be Niagara Falls, New York. I don't know anything about Niagara Falls, New York, but I know it's not honky tonks.
No,
right?
It is not. Niagara Falls, oh man, it needs some work, unfortunately. But I prayed about it, and then I was super scared to tell my friends because we were all planning on moving.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, well, we need to talk. My one friend, my closest friend, Kristen, in particular, I was like, okay, we need to talk about this. And she's like, okay, cool, because I got to talk to you too. And I was like, awesome, you go first. And she said, I think we need to move to Nashville. And
wow.
I couldn't believe it. I was like,
your mouth dropped now.
Exactly.
So I can imagine that it dropped when you heard that.
It gives me chills when I tell the story because I'm like, seriously, like if that's not God's confirmation, I don't know what is. So I was like, okay, well, this is amazing because that's exactly what I needed to tell you. And she's like, done. We convinced another friend, and within like a month or two, we were in Nashville.
So what year was this?
This was in 2002, 2003.
Okay, sure.
So we moved there and just kind of started we were taking the clothing brand on the road. We did Warped Tour that year. It was super fun. And then I found my, he's not my husband anymore, but is my son's dad.
Sure.
So we ended up getting together and we got married, and he was a tattoo artist, and that integrated even more art into my life.
Sure.
And he and his business partners wanted to start a tattoo shop in Clarksville. I knew nothing about Clarksville, but, this was like 2004 now.
Sure.
There was maybe 3 shops in Clarksville.
Right.
So we were like hitting the market right at the very beginning, and we opened a shop, and we've been in Clarksville ever since.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is an incredible story of getting here and, kind of having just the spur of the moment. I don't know if you knew this, but I'm Clarksville native.
I was assuming with your shirt.
Well, it's Tennessee in general, right? But yeah, Clarksville native for sure. But I was the 5th generation of my family to grow up on the same little plot of farmland, in the middle of town. So I don't really know much else.
Yeah.
But I think to hear your story and hear you kind of go New York to Florida to New York to now, wait, we're going to Florida, but we're going to Nashville. And you end up in Clarksville. I think it's fascinating to me because for those of us who are just natives and who are kind of ingrained in the, you're from here because your dad's from here and, you went to school with his cousin and this and all that. Yeah. To hear people's stories who are maybe not natives but still love Clarksville and how they ended up here, I think is fantastic. Something that we were really blessed with you coming here. But now that you've been here for, those many years, now you're running something that's called ArtLink, right? So you've already identified this. You were on the move from the very beginning, like taking opportunity, creating opportunity, and now ArtLink is something that has been birthed out of your passion for the arts and helping people kind of understand more about themselves, understand more about the world that we live in through the arts. So tell me about ArtLink, kind of how did that story get started and what exactly do you do? Because a lot of us have been walking down Strawberry Alley and we see the sign, right? Yeah. But for those of us who are maybe like me and not as artistically traditioned, I guess, what is it? What do you do? And give us some context for why we would want to pop in.
Okay. So I'll start with the first part of that question, how it kind of started. Well, it springs from that really low point of my life. I moved home and all of that and kind of healed from all of that brokenness through a creative outlet. And I was not realizing at the time what I was going through, but God had given me a creative outlet to help heal me, a talent and an interest in stenciling to give me something to pursue. And he purposefully, and this is the coolest part, because I don't know if you know much about stenciling, but what stenciling is,
tell us.
You take a design and you cut away pieces of that design and you take them off to reveal a finished product underneath. Yeah. And I'm finding myself at the stencil wall for hours, just peeling away pieces of hurts, pieces of pain, pieces of things that just God doesn't want there anymore. and he's revealing what he wants to show me in my life.
Wow.
So I realized this, and I'm like, holy crap, he's given me this amazing thing that now other people, I can't be the only one that needed this.
Sure.
So I wanted to create a space where you could come there and you could feel like you can totally belong, judgment free. You can create, have an outlet, build friends, cultivate confidence within yourself, and all of those sorts of things through a creative outlet. So what I needed then was for me is now for somebody else now.
Yeah.
And that's where ArtLink came from. That's why I'm doing ArtLink, because I don't know who comes through my doors. I don't know where they're going, where they came from, but when they're there, they can find purpose and know truth about themselves, and they can absolutely get a creative outlet and find healing through whatever they're going through in their life.
That's really powerful. I did not know that story.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you say, it brought you chills when certain things like this is a chill giving moment. Like that is a really powerful story. And I think the more that we can help share that message of really what is the purpose behind what you're doing is very powerful. And so ArtLink has grown. It has grown in brand awareness. It has grown in the number of people that you've been able to impact. And now you get to do this festival every year. You call it that. So and is that coming up? Is that soon? So we're recording this, mid-July-ish. When's the festival?
The festival is September 30th and October 1st.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it started out and some people may know it as the Chalk Walk Art Festival. And it was very limiting to just chalk. And I'm not a limiting person. I'm like, how can we make this bigger and better? And
that's what it sounds like. Yeah, your ever expanding role of influence, right?
Yes.
Gotcha.
So I brought on more help. We work with a bunch of other people now. We partner with local Clarksville on it, which is super awesome because it's not something I could just do by myself anymore.
Right.
And we rebranded it to Artsville Fest because now it's not just chalk. We've got muralists and sculptors and community collective art projects and all sorts of things that you can just get messy with.
That's awesome. Well, I know I can tell, I know our audience can tell just by your personality, like you are a connector of people, right? It is, you're getting energy. You're probably like the 99th percentile on the extrovert scale when you do those. Yeah. Guilty. Yeah. So tell us, as you have been, creating, shaping, being blessed by the history of art here in Clarksville, who are some of the people that you've come in contact with in the art community that you think are just adding tremendous value to Clarksville now?
Well, what's amazing is people in the art community just keep popping through my doors.
Wow.
And they are like not involved in the art community.
Okay.
Because they're
just doing it on their own?
Yeah, there really hasn't been much of one.
Sure.
And I place them in the areas. I'm like, what do you do? Oh my goodness.
I'm a connector of people.
Yes. I'm like, let's create something around what you are doing creatively. Wow. So, I mean, we have people that love to draw. I'd be like, do you want to teach a drawing class? You're really good at drawing. Yeah. Just as an example. Because, man, if you put someone up on a pedestal, they are just going to flourish and I don't think we do that enough just as people to just find what their niche is, what they're really good at, and just elevate them, because you're going to elevate them and they're going to elevate you as well. Doing, yeah. So it just helps everybody.
Yeah. Well, that is a gift. It is a spiritual gift to be able to have the humility to be able to say, I have this passion, but I want to be able to help others, feel this passion and then be fulfilled and reach the fulfillment of what they can do. Because not everyone has that gift of being able to put themselves aside and try to platform others. But I know Clarksville is really lucky to have you.
Thank you.
And I know that it's going to be exciting to see what comes about, because as more and more people move here and more people are maybe disconnected from a local community, especially in the arts community, having someone that is as personable as you or as just welcoming as you are and is eager to help see people achieve new things, you're going to connect them and they're going to be able to do great things that they probably would have maybe been a little bit too nervous to do on their own. Right?
It's very possible.
So I'm excited to see what comes about that. So when we were prepping for the episode, and you've mentioned this too before, you're obviously a go-getter. You're moving the ball forward on everything that you're doing. You use the word multipreneur, right? So it's entrepreneur, times however many X you add on to that, times 8 things is what's going on in your life or whatever it may be. So tell me, like, where did you notice that about yourself? And do you have to hold yourself back on some things?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it really started with, I dabbled in my clothing brand,
Mm-hmm.
Saucare and Saviv. So I learned a lot about how to start a business and the back end of that. And I just really enjoy running a business, and just, you get to be really creative with that. Like, you don't often think a creative outlet is starting businesses,
Sure.
but it absolutely is. You have to be so strategic and think
That's
out
it.
of the box and create something that doesn't exist.
Exactly.
But that's the fun part about it.
When you're creative, right? You know, it's like I've been in this role of like creating new things, and it's like I've got the idea, like I feel like I've got the talent, the network, the whatever to do this, a dental practice. You know, we started a tongue tie center in 21, I think, and then now this podcast is something we started in 22. So I've been creating, but it's like it's been making me nervous. You know, every time we create something new, there's a level of fear that you just kind of have to get over.
Right.
So maybe I'll learn to have your confidence and just you bust the door down and move on. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's awesome. Well, so you've got the clothing line now. You've got ArtLink now. Anything else going on?
I do all the business management side of things at No Regrets Tattoo Studio, because
cool.
I opened that with my ex-husband.
Gotcha.
So it's his shop, and
All
I
right,
do
so you're
all
still
of
doing
that.
it? Okay.
Yep. And I absolutely, and the cool thing about all of the businesses that I run is they're all creative.
Yes.
In general, which is cool. That keeps them common denominator, bonded, but they're all extremely different in how they run too.
Yeah.
So like I can't replicate every single thing.
Wow.
I'm always having to like reinvent the wheel in some capacity, and the people that were working with us and like just all of those things, and it just keeps it fun and exciting.
So do you actually do any of the tattoo art yourself, or you're just doing back end like business stuff?
I do mostly the back end business stuff, but I oversee the piercing department. I'm a body piercer by trade. I've done that since, I was 18 years old. I've been body piercing.
Really?
And now I just kind of train our new piercers, and just the technology and the industry and all of the additions that have brought to it, like they're all surpassed me now. Like, and that's the coolest thing. Like when you get to teach somebody what you do and then they go beyond you, like that's success.
All right. So my mind is blown right now. I don't have a single piercing. I don't have a tattoo. But I need to know a little bit about this. Like how do people get trained to do it? I've always wondered that, right? Like what is the process like? Obviously there's some level of interest in it, but you know, if somebody comes to you and says, this is something that I'm great at, I find joy in. Yeah. How do you get started on doing something like that?
So you find a tattoo shop that's willing to do an apprenticeship. That's how it's run across the board.
And that's like legal requirement from the state of Tennessee.
Yep,
okay,
yep.
Gotcha.
And the state of Tennessee requires for either a piercing apprenticeship or a tattoo apprenticeship, it's a minimum of a year. You're under a licensed either piercer or tattooer, whatever you're actually trying to do. Yeah, at our shop, we have our own kind of like curriculum, I guess you would say. So we have some books that we make you read, and we have you practice on a whole bunch of stuff, and there's a lot.
What do you practice on that's not skin? Or
well,
is that a silly question?
Well, there's like acrylic body part, like silicone body parts. So you can actually practice piercing ears or whatever and get used to the tools in your hand.
That's awesome. So dentist, we use teeth, acrylic teeth. Is like we drill on those for a long time before you actually touch an extracted tooth. Yeah. Before you touch a human, right? So similar process.
Yep,
it's the same thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. And then once we're confident in your abilities there, we get some people that just want to volunteer. Okay. Like, hey, this is our apprentice. That's it. So you're at their mercy.
Hey, I've been there because as a dental student, you know, I was trained in Memphis, and one of the things that you've got to learn how to actually treat humans, right? And so they offer services at a very significantly reduced cost, and you just kind of know it's going to take a lot longer. There's going to be maybe more of a headache logistically on when you can get in and how long it's going to take, but you get a really great financial deal on it. And we're all scared for our life because if we mess up, you know, they're going to kick us out of here or whatever. So you actually get some of the best dental work that you can get, right? And so I'm sure there's probably some similarities to that as people are learning. You know, mistakes are actually not as common as you might think. You know, I mean, people, when you get to that point after you've trained on the inanimate objects, like you're usually pretty good at that skill, at least in the dental world. So
definitely.
That's pretty fascinating because I don't know that I've ever really thought about the process to become a tattoo artist or to become did you call it a piercer?
A piercer.
I'm really showing you how little knowledge I have of the industry as a whole. Well, one of the things that, I think we can both say is very exciting right now is the trajectory of Clarksville as a city. You've been here long enough to see things that have been started and have grown and are now part of our everyday life. Downtown Commons, Strawberry Alley, all of those things that you're down and around all the time right now weren't necessarily there 10 years ago. But the arts is going to be something that is continually moving us forward. We've got a really nice collection of wall murals now that weren't really present then. Yeah. Why do you think the arts are so critical to the development of a community this size?
Well, the arts are all around us, just in general. Yeah. And if you're not thinking about it, you might miss it. But literally, we have to stay inspired. You can just survive and go through life and do the mundane, but are you living if you're just surviving?
Wow.
But you add that creative, the inspirational mural that you see or something like that, and you immediately get out of mundane and jump into inspiration. And you could live inspired, and that helps cultivate passion within yourself. And if you're not living passionately, honestly, I don't even think you're really living.
You wrote that in the little prep, and that is a fantastic quote. It's probably what we're going to name the episode. And awesome. I can tell that it is not it's not fake. That's you genuinely believe that. And I joke, dentists are about the most boring people that there are on the planet. We don't, there's not always a lot of personality with us, and we don't get a lot of kind of connection to the arts. But then when you kind of reveal the surface, it actually is what we do is an art form. We're removing disease and making it, we're restoring it to its original condition, or we're taking something that someone wants improvement on, and we're doing this reconstruction and making it, whole and healthy and whatever it is. And so I'm surrounded by it, even though I don't recognize it at times. It's just my day-to-day job. It's what I do. And so having people like you here in town to, point that out and point us in the right direction and keep the boring among us, like myself, always exciting and moving forward, then we really appreciate that. I asked you a couple people who've just been great influences on you, and you mentioned Cindy Pitts. And Cindy Pitts is someone, when you ask, particularly women who are creators and who are accomplishing a lot of great things in our community, she has touched the lives of so many people.
Absolutely.
Tell me more about that interaction, your relationship with her, and what has she meant to you?
Well, I've known the Pitts since Mayor Pitts was a state representative.
Yes.
And that is how I became friends with them. Sure. And it was a couple of years into my relationship business-wise with Mayor Pitts that I finally got to sit and just chat with Cindy, and her heart for the Lord and just what she stands for. I was like, where I am in my life and what I'm doing, I was like, I need some mentors, strong, solid, godly mentors in my life that get it. They know what I'm going through to feed into my life. And God brought me her, man. Wow. I was so pumped. We've had so many chats, and just the things she says to me really just feed me in such an amazing way. I'm beyond blessed to just have her in my life. Right. And I'm just so thankful for what she does give to me wisdom wise, and be able to answer some questions that I could never ask other people because they just wouldn't understand. Right. And that whole relationship means absolutely the world to me.
What I think is really profound, that is a gift that she gives people, is she is not afraid to hide the difficult parts in her life. And she's very forthcoming with trying to relate to people who are in difficult situations. And I think it's surprising. You said, you mentioned that you met her kind of when he was state representative. I first met her. I'm really good friends with her son. So we grew up playing baseball and basketball together. Nice. She's been Jacob's mom my whole life, right? And you don't always, as a kid, look up and respect your friend's parents because you just take it for granted. She's a great mom to hang out with. She's always nice to us when we're together or whatever it may be. But as I've become a young adult and kind of transitioned to more in this, I have more official interactions with her now. She has just been such an encourager. She's always been quick to look my daughters in the eye and pray for them. She's been very quick to tell us, just keep moving the ball forward, keep trying new things. And what I love is she is not a person who only does that to me, who I've known her for 30 years. She finds people like you who are talented, have great personalities, who are just increasing in value in our community in lots of different ways. And she's latching on to everyone that she can. So when you mentioned her name, I thought, man, that is just fantastic. Yeah. Well, I want to transition a little bit. And so as a multipreneur, you're operating all kinds of things. Like, you've got to have some great professional, personal development skills. Where are you getting your information from that keeps you on the front edge of making sure that you're kind of at the top of your game to operate ArtLink and the tattoo studio and everything else that you name that you do?
Yeah. I'm in a life group, which is a leadership life group. Okay. So I'm constantly surrounding myself with leaders that are smarter than me and beyond me in where my business is, so I can ask them questions and just kind of watch what they do and replicate it and emulate them in a way. I listen to a bunch of podcasts, leadership. I'm such a nerd. Like leadership podcasts and like business
They're pretty
podcasts.
Good though, right? Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So those as well. And then there are just different creative businesses around the country that I just kind of watch and see what they're doing. And I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea. And I'm constantly thinking through ideas anyways. And I just want to try everything. Yeah. So I just try. And if it doesn't work, then we don't do it again.
It doesn't work.
If it does, it sticks. We're moving forward.
It's the courage to fail. And,
that's true.
There was an episode on the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast recently where he was talking to his guest and talked about this. She was kind of a serial entrepreneur as well. And he said, how do you just put something away that doesn't work? Because so many people get stuck in the thought of, well, what am I going to do if this doesn't work? And what are people going to think of me if this doesn't work? And in reality, just having the courage to fail, I'm like, yeah, we tried that and it didn't work, and we've not been doing this podcast for long, but there's been a few things that we've tried that have just been a bust. And we thought it was going to be a fantastic idea and it wasn't, and it's okay. We tried and it's good. And we're just now have the confidence that when we actually hit our head against the wall on something again, we'll survive it and it's going to be okay. And we're going to keep moving forward and we're going to have a smile on our face and tag on to the people that are adding value into our life and just keep moving forward. So
I heard a quote, if you don't mind me saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not when failure isn't doing something and messing up. It is doing something and messing up and refusing to get up again. Wow. Because you're going to fall and you're going to hit your head against the wall. But when you don't get up again, you've completely failed.
Now that's when failure kicks in. Well, I want to repeat it for our audience because I think this is the profound thing. And we talked about this being the one big message. If you aren't living passionately, are you truly living? Yep. And I think, you have described in this episode that, in us just talking so far, living passionately in all kinds of ways, from when you were really early on, just following bands around, creating your desire for the apparel industry, kind of, fashion design. You've talked about living passionately in, moving here and connecting with people and helping artists in their own ways connect with resources and giving them the platform to showcase their skills. You've talked about being passionate in just your business operations that you're doing. And so I know that you're backing that up 100%. And Clarksville is better off because you're here. So thank you for mentioning that. I think it's just profound. If you aren't living passionately, are you truly living? And that's, something that we can all kind of sit back and digest on a little bit and think about, because it stuck with me when you said it, and I know that you're living it. And so I appreciate you sharing that.
Of course.
So we're going to go to the lightning round.
Ooh.
Are you ready for that?
Yes.
All right. So your go-to karaoke song or genre. You got a history in the music industry, so maybe not a performer, but you're always a karaoke performer, right?
Yes, for sure. Anything Paramore.
Paramore. Awesome. Wasn't expecting it. Probably should have expected it, but that is classic. All right. I'm actually a little impressed that I know who Paramore is. You should be impressed.
Yeah,
too.
I am very proud of you right now.
All right. If you could collaborate on a new wall mural for downtown, somebody comes to you today, says you're the queen of the arts in Clarksville. What is an idea that would be in your head, or what would you want to move forward with?
Well, I actually have a mural
I'm
that
sure you do.
I'm
Exactly. Right.
I love to have murals that are very incorporate
Okay.
like motion or action, or you want to stand there and
Yeah.
take a picture of it.
Yeah.
But I have this one of an umbrella, and it's raining rays,
Okay.
and then there are birds flying all around it. But the idea is you're holding the umbrella, and then there's like either a thought bubble right there.
Okay.
But you could put what you want in the thought bubble. So that's
Really?
like chalk
Where is it?
paint. Well, it isn't. It doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
But
it's going to.
Yes, it
Okay.
will.
It will exist.
It will exist.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I have a 4-year-old daughter who's fascinated with rainbows right now.
Oh,
and, there's a song, I don't know who the artist is, that talks about, there's rainbows over your head, and just hold on tight to the umbrella when hard things come your way. And so whenever that's up, we're going to be there taking that photo in front of it. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really cool idea.
Thanks.
All right. So you have a friend coming from out of town, coming to Clarksville, and they want to know where's the coffee spot to go. So I'm not going to put you on the spot and tell you one, because that wouldn't be fair to all your friends. But give me a few options, and specifically give us a few drinks that you think I'm going to take my friend to try this.
Well, I only like chai lattes.
Okay.
So you're not going to get a variety of drinks out of me.
Fair enough.
But I love that like all the places in town have a different chai latte.
Okay.
So we could do chai latte taste testing.
You just walk around.
Exactly.
Yeah. And everyone will already know who you are.
Right.
So you just move to the
walk
front
in,
of the
say
line.
hi.
That's
Yep.
awesome. All right. Professional development wise, what is one app or tool that helps you stay organized?
I'm going to give you 2 apps that
All right.
are absolutely the most crucial for me.
Yeah.
One is called Trello.
Yes,
Totally free to use. You're familiar with it?
I am, but they may not be. So give them the rundown.
So Trello is like an organized brain dump, basically.
That's a great description.
Yeah, you can create different segments, and you can add checklists, and you can assign people tasks.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The other one is Evernote. Are you familiar?
Okay. I've never used Evernote, but I've heard of it.
Okay, so if you ever use a notebook and you write everything in this digital notebook,
Right.
Evernote, and you're like, oh, remember I needed to find this note, and I know I said these words. Crap, and you're looking through your notebook trying to figure out where it was, and you never find it.
Right.
Well, you can just type those little words, and it'll pop up every note that you've written with those
So
words
it
in that
scans it,
order.
yes.
Yeah, so it's like Google for your brain.
For your brain, for the brain dump.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. I love it. Yeah.
And then I color code my calendar, my planner. I have a color for every
Paper
business.
calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that helps me stay focused on what business
Now,
I'm
is this
working
like
on.
color coding in ink, or is it
Yes.
highlighter?
I use,
Okay.
like gel pens or whatever,
Okay.
and each business has its own color. Anything I'm doing in that business, I use that color, and I look through my planner what's going on, so I know which business I'm doing what
That's
with.
pretty fantastic. To someone who has 2 or 3, operations running simultaneously, plus a family, I could have a pretty good multicolored planner.
You absolutely could.
I do. So my really nerdy question to you. Your planner, and I've talked to Madison about this, who helps us develop these podcasts. She kind of prefers the planner that has the individual days kind of on a weekly basis that allows you to make multiple notes. I prefer the one that's a monthly basis that just has a little block for the day so it doesn't get overloaded. What's your go-to design?
I can't do either of those. I
Either.
need an entire day on a page.
So you've got a 365 page.
Yeah. Well, and the planners I find, they only do 6 months at a time like that now. And I'm like, man, now I got to switch in the middle of the year. It's really annoying. If they thin out the pages a little, they could make
need
it
Bible
in a whole
pages.
year, right?
Get those things to roll over.
I write so much because it's almost like a notebook too. I
Yeah.
take it in with me. So it's important that I have that much space for
I love
each
that.
day.
Yeah. Well, this was fun.
This was fun.
I'm really glad that you came on and told us about what you're doing. So one more time for everybody, tell us about the festival, the days, what it's going to be like. What do they need to know? Where is it?
Okay, it's Artsville Fest is the festival. You can go to artsvillefest.com and you can get all the details, but it is going to be a 2-day multiple packed creative arts explosion for your entire family.
I love it.
And you can chalk it up. You can register now to get your chalk square, and that's a contest. So you can chalk it up at the festival. You can, if you are creative and you draw or do photography or something like that, you could register for our juried art show. That's the kickoff on Friday night, and your art would be featured and voted on, and you can win scholarships. So that's a really cool opportunity.
Very cool.
That's also something you can register for now. And then we're bringing 3 three-dimensional chalk artists and 3 muralists, and we're going to have so much more. I'm not going to tell you it all now because you're going to, and you can follow our Instagram, and we'll keep revealing all the really cool stuff that we have.
Artsville Fest?
Artsville Fest, on Instagram.
I love it.
And then if you're like, I don't know what to do today, come to ArtLink.
Right?
We've got something for everybody.
Yeah.
We got
look
something
for the big smile, Strawberry Alley. Just walk down Strawberry Alley, look for the big smile who's connecting people and bringing smiles to everybody.
Exactly. We're open Thursdays through Sundays.
Awesome. I love it. Well, hey, thank you so much for jumping on the show with us. I know our audience is, really intrigued by everything that you've had to share with us. So if you made it to the end of the episode, thank you so much. We are so glad that you've joined part of our episode and part of our online community. We'd really appreciate anything. This was awesome that Maria shared all this great content with us. Leave her some comments below. That will really help spread the message. All those little things that sometimes you don't choose to do, they actually add value to the community and help more people get to hear this great message of Clarksville and be introduced to great people like Maria who make this place the best place to live in America. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.